because different storefronts have different requirements for how your art has to be displayed, I decided I would try to do one piece of art that could adapt to multiple storefronts' aspect ratios. Anybody who's done any photography knows that framing makes up for a lot of how good a piece of art can appear. And I'm going to have to be a little more flexible than maybe would be ideal, but that's all right. I'm trying to accommodate that by planning out some framing ahead of time and making sure that what I do have there is at least not bad. So the green rectangle represents a vertical box art, and the blue rectangle represents a horizontal box art. So you may also notice that I have this Myths and Outcasts DLC logo now. I worked on that just recently so that people could see very clearly what's new and special about this title. And lastly, you might notice that my camera angle is a little different. So now when I lean in to draw, I won't be completely out of frame. And I've now hooked up Twitch-safe music, so you guys, so my videos won't get audio removed thanks to copyright claims. Not something I thought about last time. So, without further ado, let's maybe pop into it, get some painting done. So my plan today is, obviously I've sort of done a really rough outline of the of what's going to happen in the background here. Why don't we group these and fade them out a little bit so that we can more thoughtfully draw over them. Reduce their opacity, and we can get rid of those rectangles. That's just a tool for me. They're not at all going to be in there, but I'll name those layers real quick. Vertical and horizontal. Okay. Welcome to my stream. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. So, and we can get rid of both of these logos actually. These are here again just for reference, so I know that nothing important is going to get covered up by the logo. So the first thing I want to do is block out a little color for the environment. Actually, maybe I should do some stronger outlines first on these guys. Yep, that's what I should do. So pretty much everything's in the background, so we don't have to worry about it painting over anything. I got dry eyeballs. All right. So my webcam is having a hard time staying focused. Get it together, dude. We got work to do. So why don't we start with the Skeleton Man's summoned ally here. He's the closest and most relevant to the image, I would say, as a character. You can see how having that roughed in, even if I'm not really faithful to those lines, it really helps me to have the rough in there already so that I don't have to make all the decisions at once regarding where everything goes. Pardon me for a moment. Okay, we're good. He is just a skeleton after all. But he's got armor on. He's a skeleton knight. Sometimes I wonder if the additions we make to Barony seem a little, I don't know, off the beaten path, unusual compared to what fans expect. I'm such a fan of kind of classic tropey fantasy, and so there's a lot of that I want to I'd say we've worked towards getting in and making sure is represented, because that's, you know, there's a lot of you guys playing Barony that like classic fantasy. But at the same time, when we look at the possibility of adding a new feature, we think about what the game already does and what's going to give us a lot of bang for our buck in terms of getting something in that works with the game systems. And so a lot of you might have asked, you know, like, well, why are we doing these races instead of something like dwarfs and elves? And the obvious answer is that those characters aren't in Barony. They're not part of our game. But then there's gnomes that are in Barony as an enemy race, but they're short, and so none of the armor fits them properly. And so we take our wins where we can get them, because after all, all of us still are working on Barony in our spare time. And so, you know, the question is it efficient to get it in, and is it still awesome? And if we can answer yes to both of those things, then it's something we may choose to invest in. All right, we got this guy's bony outline getting going here. Anybody got anything to report? Everyone doing okay today? I've had a busy weekend so far. Last night I knew there was a lot of work I wanted to get done on this art and some other things I was doing for Barony today. In addition to some other, like, taking care of my house, my household, my family. And let's give you a nice big back plate here. There you go. It looks stylish. High collar. And so I stayed up real late playing Astroneer, which isn't really the type of game I play often, but I got kind of engrossed in it and was making tractor expeditions to find resources and stuff. I had a good time. But as a result, my eyes are very dry today. I was sitting and cooking under my monitor for hours. Okay, so we're going to color him the same color as his smoke, because in the game, summoned or allied monsters often appear like a teal shade of their standard form. So we'll call that good for now with the skeleton. It's okay if he's covered up. Let's move on to the shopkeeper. So those who view the art in widescreen format are going to see the shopkeeper is going to sneak up behind this troop. And if you've ever tried to kill a shopkeeper in Barony, you'll know that that those guys, I mean, this could be a total party wipe here in a minute. All right. Wow, I got an ad playing. I didn't know that would happen.
And if you're looking for
more
ways to save, your local Geico agent could help with your homeowners, condo, and renter's insurance too. Stop by or give them a call today.
All right, so shopkeeper is your classic middle-aged man with a horseshoe haircut. But he's no slouch. Let's make him look like he's got a little bit of ferocity under that horseshoe of his. You know, of all the games that, all the roguelikes that have shopkeepers that'll come mess with you, I dare say that Barony's may be the most threatening. Now, if you can think of a more threatening shopkeeper that you can actually kill in one of these games, I'd love to hear it. I'm gonna color that nose of his nice and red. Looking great. Horseshoe haircut, that's right. What's up, Free Like New? Thanks for tuning in, man. Good to see you again. Monsters near my store? I don't think so. And after this drawing, people are gonna be like, man, playable shopkeeper. Let's go. Who doesn't want to be this guy? Can't imagine being trapped in a dungeon for decades and being like, well, guess I'll learn how to destroy monsters and open a shop. Playable shopkeep. There, now I did it. He's gonna have his sleeves rolled up because this guy knows how to get into the dirty work. You know, there already is a merchant class, but you can't look like the shopkeeper. That would actually be pretty easy to do, is to add his face to the game. Although that would offset the racial balance of, we have 4 of each skin color right now. How dare you mess with my bottom line? Exactly. He suffers no fools. Give him a nice meaty mitt. I think I'm gonna make it look like he's trying to conjure up some magic with this hand of his. Mm-hmm. His hand's a little oversized. I'll just cut that out and correct it. He doesn't need to be looking like a dwarf. That might trigger some folks. So many dwarf requests. Alright, that looks good. It'll do. Might as well get some arm hair in there. All right. All right, let's try to get this arm extended and given that look like he's slamming open his door. Give him a nice meaty hand. Again, too big. Gotta tone it down. My erase button doesn't seem to be working very well. Okay, there we go. All right, Shopkeep has seen some stuff, that's for sure. All right, how we doing? Let's take a, make sure we don't miss the forest for the trees here. Okay, he's coming. I don't know if I like the pose of his legs. I'm gonna try something else real quick. If I'm charging through a door, maybe I'm leading with the foot that I am charging with. Maybe that makes more sense. That puts him in more of a defensive pose. He needs to have his, he needs a little more motion. The Shopkeeper's an aggressor. Trust me, in all the playtests I've done as a monster, I can tell you, the Shopkeeper is an aggressor. Luckily, he's not smart enough to see through a polymorph potion. So you can still go shopping if you play your cards right. And keep well supplied. Which could be hard to do if you're can't get into shops. Alright, let's give him some. Now if you remember from the in-game art, this guy's got like quilted green pants, but I don't think I'm gonna draw every single little bit of quilting. I think it'd be obnoxious. All right. It's got a nice cuffed leather boot on. Okay, that'll do. Just a little bit like he's got a bit of a Bill Dotree vibe to him for any King of the Hill fans out there. All right. I think I might have, maybe this door's okay. Let's see how it goes. Get in the basic shape of it and then make some erasures and have some irregularity in the wood. I don't know about you guys, but something about a dungeon door that says everything to me I need to know about the genre, you know? So much about dungeon crawling is opening a door and finding out what's on the other side. Kind of pumps me up. Let's get a little fancy with our door brace here. I remember reading somewhere that just speaking of doors, that the classic tumbler lock wasn't invented for a long time after what we'd consider appropriate for medieval fantasy. And it's one of those things that, yeah, I'm not a stickler about realism in my fantasy or my games, usually. And so it doesn't really bother me, but it's like, I find it a little bit unfortunate that there's some anachronism in just the very concept of dungeons being loaded with locked doors in the way that we think of them as a thief would think of them. What are you gonna do? I didn't really think about the fact that this was going to be a door drawing stream. I'd like to think a skilled cooper made these doors, just as like a side project. For the last key art piece I did, the background is actually a modified in-game screenshot. It's mostly because I really wanted it to sort of not be the center of attention.
I can't believe it.
And
That Gerald is presenting the quarterly budget report with
man, I can't stand that these ads play so frequently.
No, I can't believe how
Anyway,
easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car
but
insurance with
having a really weak background has made it difficult for me to resize the art so that it can fit multiple storefronts. And so, by spending some extra time on that background here, I can hopefully make the art look better in more places. Hope it's worth it. But it means I spend more time drawing doors than I guess I would have expected to. No, let's not make promises that we don't want to keep. I'm not gonna actually draw every single stinking board in the door. Not only would that take forever, but I think it would it would be too much detail for the style we have going. Let's just give it some character here and there. So one of the things I expect to get done, hopefully today, is that once we have the background pretty well sussed out, I expect to size this thing down and start pixelating it. And I actually may not do a fully colored version of the non-pixelated version because that would be very time consuming. And ultimately, because of how much, how do I put it? How much, I guess, definition gets turned into mush when you downsize to pixelate. I feel like I'd end up basically doing the color work for this thing twice. And I'd rather not do that. It's very time consuming, as I said. So instead, once I have like the general color blocked out, then I'll size it down and then I'll do the more intricate color rendering work that needs to be done. Give this door a bit more of an upright position. All right. So we got a shopkeeper in his door. Let's make that door attached to something. If you've ever paid close attention, you might have noticed that all the doors in the game have a pillared fortification surrounding them. So, just trying to represent that to some degree here. Trying to add a little wonk to the wall so it doesn't look so straight. This is a dungeon after all, not a convention center or whatever. Let's make this a simple wood sign with a bag painted on it to kind of represent the sign that's out on the walls of every shop in the game. All right. I got pinged here. All right. Make an unnecessarily detailed little hanging mechanism for the store sign. All right, we got some rocky walls. We got a nice chubby shopkeeper. And we got a skeleton. All right, that's what we accomplished with our first, 40 minutes or so. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. I'll leave the music on for you guys, and I'll leave the image up so you can enjoy what we've done so far. And I'll be back in 5 minutes, maybe less, 2 minutes. Let's call it 2 minutes. See you in a sec. All right, dudes. Focus, camera. Focus. All right, I'm ready to get back into it. I think before I move away from the shopkeeper, I'm gonna detail out the inside of his shop just a scotch. Just so we know it's a shop. And I think I'll have his wall of shelving going perpendicular just because I think that'll be a lot more interesting to look at. You can see I'm lazily not planning any of my perspective lines because, like, who has time for that anyway? Will imply he's got an Alembic up here in honor of the 3.2.3 update coming out soon.
That Gerald is
The Brewer class is gonna start with an Alembic, and that's a DLC only class, but
No, I can't believe how
the
easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance.
you know
with
what?
Geico.
I'm gonna get rid of this music. It's been annoying me. Here, let's find. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that music. But I sure want to listen to it. I believe that this will be ad-free. And I think it will also not be offensive to Twitch. Alright. So anyway, as I was saying, even though the Brewer is a DLC only class, that players will still be able to find alchemy supplies in shops when they're not themselves a brewer. So that means everybody's getting, whether they buy the DLC or not, everybody's getting some hot new gameplay soon. And from my personal playthroughs, I definitely make use of the alchemy when I have the opportunity. I'm reaping the consequences of not drawing my perspective lines first, but it's such a small part of the image that it's not costing me much.
Very beautiful, and we do hope that you enjoy.
All right, and you may have noticed that shopkeepers have like a wood floor all around their shop and inside, so I might try to imply that a little bit to some degree. Some few knots in the wood. Why not? Happy little knots. All right. So we got a shop. Let's get this back wall here. There's gonna be a torch on this wall. It's gonna be backlighting our guys to some degree. So let's get that roughed in. Well, it's already roughed in. Let's get the line art in for that. So if anyone has questions about the DLC, I'm happy to chat. Otherwise, I hope you just enjoy the drawing. I've been such a fantasy dork for so long that I get a kick out of seeing scenes like this with a motley crew of unusual characters who can clearly go beat down some dungeon threats. I mean, it's everything I like about gaming. So here we just have a portcullis. It's like everything else in the game is inspired, or everything else in this drawing is inspired by what happens in game. I don't know if you guys can hear the song I'm listening to, but it sounds like somebody's shuffling around their tea equipment. All right, we got progress. I'm making a portcullis. Let's get some archway details there. I almost said corbelled arches. When I was working on Age of Empires Online, I learned that because I was responsible for coming up with some iconography, I learned that a corbelled arch is actually an arch without the sort of typical arc keystone structure that you're used to seeing in arches. And it was a cheaper way that Romans figured out how to build archways. I guess it was Romans, yeah. It's always the Romans. Anyway, since this is a typical arch with curved stones going over the top, that means it is not a corbelled arch, as far as I recall. So, far be it from me to call it one. I'm trying to decide where I want the light to be. So the torch right now is tangenting off the skeleton conjurer's hood, and I don't like that. So I think I'll have it coming off here instead.
Things you can do, and so you just have to protect your own art, and hopefully there'll be room for it.
Sometimes I wonder how prominent torches really were in the medieval era. Is it something we fell in love with and just done a lot of, or were they actually used prominently at one point in time? Because I'm pretty sure candles were actually used a lot more as a reliable, long-lasting light source than a torch. But I don't think torches are like a work of fiction or anything. Entirely in Maine. Alright, we got a decent background going. Alright. Take a quick look at Decided on a whim to give this guy a beard. Make him look like he's got maybe some leather armor on. Still looking rather knightly, but he's not a particularly heroic character in this context. I don't need this thing to be waving that much. Let's give this guy some nice bracers. Since we're seeing the back of them and all, might as well look kind of cool. I need to justify his sword pointing down from this angle, which is a bit of a challenging way to draw for me. Alright, that works. Let's give him a little bit of a handguard here. Help tie the two positions together. I think the sword hilt needs to be facing a different angle. It looks silly. want something. More like this. That's better. A little bit of a blood groove in there, as it's called. All right. Hey, what's up, Chimney Chickens? Thanks for dropping by. I really appreciate it. I am having a chill evening. Having a good time drawing nerd stuff. How you been, dude? Really appreciate you stopping by. This pose for this character out in the front here is definitely not working. So I'm gonna try to find a way to rescue it. I'm about that nerd life. Doing well. Snowmageddon in Washington. Yeah, dude. I go on Facebook and it's all I see is all the Washingtonians freaking out about the snow. Which is like, I get it, man. I remember a few times the snow got pretty crazy up there. And it's not easy. It's not handled well. That groundhog is fake news. Yeah. It's all fake news. But especially the groundhog. Why don't we have these be brass knuckles? And we can suggest this character here is a monk. Yeah, positions of the hand. It's a little bit weird. I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm trying to keep the arm from crossing in front of the sword, while also not making it look like the sword could hit that character on accident or something like that. But I don't know if that's gonna be possible. Yeah, it's a bit of an extreme pose. Might have to abandon it. Let's give it one more shot here. The artistic process, everyone. Okay, so this character was always supposed to look like they're getting struck back by the vampire. I think it looks like that's what's happening to some degree. I just think the angles are wrong. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've seen a lot of fantasy paintings where the posing doesn't always make a ton of sense, but I don't want it to look explicitly wrong either. Yeah, I just don't think these characters are exactly sitting in the scene well together. I have to find a way to correct that. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe that'll work. Let's give that a shot, shall we? Okay, you'll notice it's distinctly empty here, and that is partially intentional because it's where the logo is going to be. I think this guy's mohawk is a bit too extreme. Let's tone it down just a touch, shall we? I mean, the perspective was off. It was just kind of a mess. That's better, in my opinion. I think to that end, that might have been, I might have toned it back too much. I think this rear visor might be overkill also. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you. I'm working on the key art, basically the store art for the Barony DLC. What's up, Kraziel? Thank you for saying so. I do appreciate that. Just trying to get these foreground characters looking as good as possible, even though they're not going to really be in focus. Just want to make sure the poses make sense. Alright. That's all looking a bit more reasonable than it was before, in my opinion. Let's tie it back up with his cloak. Okay. Let's zoom in a scotch. Where's my zoominator? Okay. So we're getting a look at the whole thing. And before I start slapping on color, I can make any last minute composition adjustments. I'll go ahead and clean up. Oh, darn you. There we go. Clean up some of that overlap. What's that game about? Oh, hey, Krause, you haven't been introduced to Barony. So Barony is a game that I work on. It is a first-person roguelike dungeon crawler, and it's the only one like it that has co-op. So, so it's been out for a couple years now. We've continued to support it with free content, and the reason why I'm doing this art now is because we're just about to release some DLC where you can play as monster races. That's a brand new addition to the game that's going to change the gameplay significantly. So it's just about ready to ship. Here, I'll copy the page. There you go. You can check out the game on Steam. And with the next, couple weeks or so, the DLC should be released where you can play as these cool monster dudes. So, I don't know how many games you've played that lets you choose to play as a sort of a normal hero or as a monster, but it seems like not that many, so I'm excited for it. My favorite's a skeleton, personally. So made the game. Wish I could do that. Well, thanks for saying so, Krasy. I didn't do it alone. I did make this image, but the project originator was another dude, a programmer. And being that I'm an artist and game designer, I would have a very hard time making a game by myself. There's a few kinds of games I could probably make on my own, but they would not be the kinds of games I'd want to make due to my limited programming skill. So instead, I like to team up with dudes who have similar creative ambitions, and we make something fun together. But this is a project that we do in our spare time, so yeah, it's just because we love doing it, because we love the idea of the games we're making. I feel like the ground needs a little texture, so let's throw some in. Just got a little texture on the floor. Well, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. I like the idea of doing cool things with my life rather than boring things. So here we are, in pursuit of that effort, trying to make this game even cooler. Okay, I think we're about at the point where I'm feeling really good about just throwing some color on and seeing how it feels. And so let's name some layers here. We'll call this foreground, paint, save. Our sketch layer isn't really needed anymore, but we'll leave it around. We don't mind having a little history. And let's just start flood filling some colors, man. Let's do it. Let's be bold, make some decisions, as Bob Ross would say. Let's start with sort of a medium warm gray. It's a little bit brown for my needs. Okay, there we go. That's about right. And start whipping. Super X Studios. What's up, man? Good to see you tuning in. What's key art? Is that store page? Is that the store page art? Yeah, I've sort of adopted that. Like, I haven't ever really heard somebody define it specifically, but all the contexts I've heard it used in, key art is generally the type of like illustrative work that you would use for promotional materials, and so that's what makes it different than concept art. Is in that concept art, while some guys are super duper good at it, and all of their work could be used in promotional materials, the real purpose of concept art is to help build the ideas for the team to build the game off of, and so key art, its real job is to help sell the game, and it's used in, I guess, key parts of the game as kind of like an element of the production work. So I think that's the best description I have. So hopefully it answers your question. I don't really I consider myself more of a concept artist than a key artist, or like a promotional materials artist. So behind the lingo. Yeah, well, I was too, man. I was an art manager when I learned that one. I felt like a dummy. but it helped clarify some things for me too, because it's like, how do I reconcile the fact that I don't want to make these beautiful paintings? I'd much rather just sketch out ideas. And it helped me to know that there's a, that serves a completely different job in the industry than, the sort of 2D sketching that I really like to do. It's what I prefer to do. Alright, I'm gonna get a different layer in here for this walkway. So we'll try it as wood. I'll keep it on a separate layer so that I can try it as wood, or I can try it as like a brighter stone, depending on if it clashes too much with our goat pal. Well, Mr. Super X Studios, you already know so much. I don't think anybody would begrudge you for not knowing everything. I certainly wouldn't. I've had a few good friends stop by this stream, but I'm compelled to share that my pal here asking me questions about key art was the first guy that gave me a job working on games, and that means a lot to me. So I'm very happy to have you here, sir. Okay, so the wood isn't the end of the world. Let's see if it'll look better as a lighter gray. So a stone path, sort of a slate. Let's see. It really does help the Goatman stand out better. There's enough brown in this image, As much as I hate to not represent the game exactly, this is better for the overall image. So we'll do that, and then we can throw some wood in the shopkeeper's domain. I hope everyone's having a good weekend. Frankly, mine's a little busier than I'd like it to be. I'd like to get a little more time to relax with the fam. In fact, of all things, I was hoping to spend some time clearing some brush out of my yard and setting it on fire. I've been working on building a fire pit, and we're also having a fence built in the area. So there's all this brush that's loading up, and I just kind of want to get my tobacco pipe out and cut it up and watch it burn, and cut it up and watch it burn. But I got too much work to do, guys. There will be no pipe smoking today. I don't smoke a tobacco pipe often. I don't smoke anything often, but when I do, it's just once every couple of months or so. I'll enjoy some time around a fire pit with a tobacco pipe. All right, let's take this wood color and move it to that. Okay. Yeah, man, this is already coming together. Speaking of wood, let's make this wood sign nice and woody. It's so funny, because Barony is such a low-res game, even doing this sort of like, comic book style of key art is so much higher detail than anything the game would ever show you, and I find that to be funny. I think I want to alternate my color of wood there. Alright, so we'll leave the door this sort of bright color, and then we'll make the floor this reddish. There we go. We're getting some variety in our browns. Drink your time. All right. We got wood. We got stone walkway. I'm not that diligent about naming my layers, but sometimes it just seems very important to do so. When I'm actually painting in layers, and I need to move back and forth between them, then I spend the time to name them. All right, let's get these guys detailed, shall we? Let's give this more of like a cool gray. All right, yeah, he's got iron, an iron hat. I don't know if you guys can hear the music I'm listening to. This is a sort of a chill hop mix of Summer Breeze, I guess? Well, it's over now. Goodbye, Summer Breeze. I hear in Seattle it's too snowy for a summer breeze anyway. Hey, good. Hey, you're the first person to confirm you can actually hear the music, so I'm happy to hear that. Do you have a streaming scheduled? Well, that is a kind question if I've ever received one. So the short answer, my friend Crazy Elf, or maybe you prefer to be called Crazy Elf. The short answer is no, I don't have a schedule. The long answer is that I do like to stream, and lately I've been trying to stream maybe once per weekend, usually on Saturday, but last week I did it in the afternoon, and today obviously I'm doing it in the evening. So unfortunately, so just a little bit about me. I'm a family man. I have a wife and 3 kids, and I have a full-time job as a game designer. And then I also love to play video games, and I like to make video games as a hobby. And so what that means is that I stream when I can. I really do. It's like, it's funny. I don't know if I would do this kind of art if I didn't stream it, because it just gives it more value to me to do it with you guys present. So I don't know, once this key art is done for this Barony release, maybe I'll find an excuse to keep streaming art and set up a schedule, because I really do enjoy it. I did just buy a if you weren't here for the beginning of the stream, I mentioned that I just bought a 3rd monitor, because with only 2 it was getting really cramped trying to monitor my stream and having OBS up and you know, posting to social media and stuff while I'm working in a full screen application like the Paint program I'm using right now. And so I bought a 3rd monitor basically just because I'm enjoying streaming so much. So, you know, I think like most modern streamers, I don't expect a stream to be a career for me, or even be profitable at any point, but since I do enjoy it, it gives me some downtime to just listen to some chill music and talk to some cool people. Might be a worthwhile part of my life to keep supporting with a schedule of some type. I think his... I'll see if I can make those bracers work as part iron, part leather. We'll see what happens. This is our world. We can do whatever we want. That's what makes painting so great. I'll just keep quoting Bob Ross if you're not careful. Gotta make the shopkeeper nice and rosy. Well, hey, Mr. Elf, if Mr. or Mrs. Elf, Ms. Elf, if you decide to follow me, then hopefully you'll get an alert every time I pop on. And I do my best to save all of my videos just in case Twitch decides to take them down, and put them up on YouTube. So the last painting stream I did, I cut it up. I didn't cut it up. I condensed it into a much shorter video. But if you like the long format chill time and you would watch a video like that, then I will definitely upload the long form with all the conversation if you'd like. And the music. I finally found some Twitch safe music. One of the reasons why I decided to truncate my previous video is that big portions of it got muted because of the music I was listening to. It was, you know, copyrighted, and I didn't think about that. But since I'm here by myself and I'm often not talking to anybody, I figured you guys don't want to sit in silence, so I decided to throw on music. Anyway, I am in love with this shopkeeper. Like, I'm a married man and all, but like, he's just got something about him. Something about him. He thrills me. So if you haven't played Barony, the shopkeepers are devastating in how powerful they are. They know a very strong attack spell, and they have a ton of health. And if you attack them, assuming you don't use any power or polymorph shenanigans, they will remember their grudge against you forever. I think they forgive you one time in the game, and then if you offend them again, then they go back to hating you. So, anyway, shopkeepers are guys you do not want to piss off in Barony. And once I get more into the color here, I will make his hand glowing or smoking with some sort of purple magic, because that's what it'll throw at you in the game. I'm excited to take advantage of these potions to add some lighting, this torch up here to add some nice glancing lighting to this whole thing. And in general, these guys are really flat painted, and I don't have anything against that, but I really want this to feel atmospheric, and so I'll be painting over it with some lighting, and I'm kind of excited about that. So our shopkeeper in the game has a very rosy nosy. This isn't something that I was inspired by. I believe it was Spelunky that was the first game I saw that had done this, where they made the shopkeeper have a very rosy nosy, and it is apparently, in some people, it's sort of an epigenetic thing, where some people will have a lot of extra capillaries in their nose, I guess, burst if they drink a lot of alcohol and are essentially alcoholics. So if you've ever watched an old cartoon and there's a drunk character, they will often have the bright red nose to demonstrate their alcoholism. So anyway, I actually didn't know that before I made the, I don't think I knew that, before I made the shopkeeper's nose bright red in Barony. But I like the idea that he's just a drunken old man that runs a dungeon shop and who could kick your butt even if he's plastered. You know, I'm not here to judge. That's a guy I can respect. Let's give him dark circles around his eyes too. Hey! No monsters in my shop! Probably doing more shading than I need to right now, but I want to get the depth in there of the color that's needed. Thanks again for hanging with me, guys. So I'm working on my Cintiq. I believe this is one of the early model Cintiqs. I bought it. Drunk Shopkeeper confirmed rated T for teen. You know, it's funny. We're so small, our game isn't even rated. And it's like, it's not like the game hasn't made money either. Like, if you total up all of its earnings over the years, Barony's made like some substantial profit. But, you know, nobody cares. No publisher cares. Certainly no like gaming journalists care. It's just another obscure Steam game that nobody looks into the fact that it has a substantial following. Whatever. I'm not here for the fame. I'm here for the game. Dude, it was rhyme time. Yeah, there's some other, let's say, PG-13 elements to Barony that aren't exactly called, like, you wouldn't expect as much according to the store page. There were things that were part of the game before I joined the project, and I'm not inclined to make us think about them, but it's funny how the tone can shift from time to time to something that seems like a fairly lighthearted game to like, wow, that was a pretty adult reference, but okay. I think that can be fantasy in a nutshell sometimes. Alright, Drunk Shopkeeper. So since so many of you are tuning in for the first time today, I'd just like to describe to you who our characters are. So, we've already talked about the Drunken Shopkeeper and how awesome he is. Normally the players play as a human, and they can play of 12 different races, and that's just, the only difference is skin color and what their hairstyle and facial hairstyle is when you start the game. So it's completely cosmetic. And that's how people have been playing Barony for, you know, almost 3 years now. But with the Myths and Outcasts DLC, and here's the updated Steam page art that I'll be putting up. This is the first of 2 planned DLCs that we got, Myths and Outcasts. We're calling it that because you can play as some of the monsters who are already in the game. And so at the top here, we have the Skeleton Conjurer, and he comes with a new unique spell that hasn't been in the game yet, which is the ability to summon this here skeleton. Now, while we're talking about him, why don't we just start painting him? Why not? It's our world. We can do what we want. And so he starts off by conjuring a single like mystical skeleton, and unlike other allies in the game, this guy will level up with you, and if he dies, you can just resummon him and he'll keep his levels. And so you have a permanent partner with your skeleton, and that's a new, unique way to play the game. The skeleton is also, as a race, is unique in that he doesn't have to eat. Other characters will starve to death rather quickly, but the skeleton doesn't need to eat, and for that, he trades in his regeneration. So he regenerates his mana and his health much, much slower, about 1/4 the speed of any other character. And so you are forced to play cautiously and patiently, and you will generally be wise to, if you just choose to play as the Conjurer class, you will want to rely on your summon to tank the hits so that you don't have to. And when you go up enough levels in your when your summon goes up enough levels, you will have a second summon join the party. Actually, I think it's your intelligence. When your intelligence raises high enough, a second skeleton will join the party. He looks like he's been hitting the bottle. I missed your comment before, Quandao. Welcome to the stream. Would you say the skeleton is easily rattled? You know, I would say that because I have no shame, and neither do you. Welcome to the stream, Quandao. Good to see you. It's funny you say that because we're putting together a new trailer for this DLC. Would you guys like to listen to it? The visuals aren't done yet, but the script is done, and I've done the recording. I do the voices for our trailers, and I modify them in Audacity myself. Let me see if I can find it. Script. If you guys want to listen to it. Yeah, here it is. All right, well, I'm afraid you can't see it yet because the video's not done, but you can listen to it. And anyway, I have a rattle pun in there, so I'll just quiet this and you guys can listen to it now. Tell me if it's too quiet.
The Myths and Outcasts DLC for Barony. This brand new game stuff gives you a ton of new ways to tackle the dungeon, including 4 monster races and 4 new signature classes. Have you ever looked at these beautiful baddies and said to yourself, "Oh heck, I sure wish I could play as one of those"? Well, now you can. And with new classes too, it's a whole new way to play. Go adventuring as the spooky skinny skeleton. Maybe play as the new conjurer class who can summon cronies to stick by his side through the dungeon. Or maybe you like your undead a little fleshier, like this bloodthirsty vampire. Double down with the accursed class, burdened with a voracious hunger in exchange for supernatural powers and speed as you look for a way to end your curse. And speaking of thirsty, how would you fare as a succubus? Play this demonic mistress as the Mesmer class, a magical trickster who can charm enemies to fight for her. Anything else? Alright, this intoxicated idiot, the Goat Man. He eats tin cans. You could play as the brewer and take advantage of the brand new alchemy skill to mix potions, some helpful and some deadly. Each monster has their own racial abilities and drawbacks. You think a shopkeeper is just going to let you rattle your way into a shop with those dead eyes of yours? Think again. Humans in the dungeon are going to treat you like the monster that you are. But you could find yourself with some unusual new allies too. Or perhaps you prefer a domesticated monster. With the Myths and Outcasts races, you can just click this box and play the regular way, but with a cool monster costume on. Sure, why not? Have it your way. Your party can be a diverse squad, and there's no problem teaming up with players who don't have the DLC. That sounds pretty good. Human adventurers can play as these new classes too. So did I cover it all? You get all this when you buy the Myths and Outcasts DLC. So if you like Barony and that sounds fun, then buy it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fun.
Okay. So there you have it. If you watch the Blessed Edition trailer for Barony, you'll recognize that I'm using the same sort of like aloof sense of humor with the character that I'm playing there. Kind of drawing attention to that this is not a fantasy game that's got super deep lore and takes itself seriously. Thank you, Crazy Elf. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. So anyway, if you missed the rattle reference in there, I said, you think a shopkeeper is gonna let you rattle your way into a shop with those dead eyes of yours? And while that audio is ongoing, we're gonna have a clip of a skeleton going into a shop and then getting destroyed by a shopkeeper, of course. Because what else would we do? Anyway. I've done a little bit of video editing in my time, but it's not really my strong suit. And so when I found a guy was looking to do some free work to get experience, I saw if he would be interested in our project, and he piped up. So I've got essentially a volunteer working on collecting the footage for the trailer. If it turns out bad, I'll just do it myself, but hopefully it'll turn out well. 11 out of 10. Thank you, Quandao. Appreciate it. You know, I was worried it'd be a little long, but considering it's DLC, people... Here, let me turn my music back on. I figured the more people know about it, the better. Because I know for myself, when I go to a game store... Chimney Chicken says, and speaking of thirsty, how about playing as a succubus? And he was taking a drink when he heard that. Well, I think you're the first person to comment on that since I played it for my wife, and she scoffed with a good sense of humor, of course. She knows my sense of humor. So anyway, being that you're the first to truly comment on it, I'm glad that it was funny for you. No, one of these days I feel like I should write a book because I have a real dumb sense of humor, and when I'm creating, it comes out on its own, and I just have a feeling that my writing style would make a funny book. But even if the story like takes itself seriously. All right. So we got that smoke, and the skeleton is just sort of emerging from it. I think it's pulling off the effect pretty well. What layer am I on? Oh well. I'm just adding a little emphasis to the billows of the smoke here. You appreciate my sense of humor. I don't always comment on Facebook, but when I do, it's usually one of your posts. Dang, man. Heck of a compliment. Thank you for saying so. Man, Facebook's a dangerous place. Because, yeah, people can be so negative. And I try not to add to it. And if I'm going to be negative on Facebook, I try to at least do so with some original thought, rather than parroting whatever, you know, the hot topic of the day is that everyone's obligated to be mad about, you know? So, if you find my commentary to be a bit of a relief from that, then that's a huge win for me. Makes me feel real great, pal. Appreciate it, dude. All right. Okay. So we got that skeleton done. Let's finish out this shopkeeper. I don't know why I abandoned him. I told you guys I was in love, and I just left him like I didn't even care. Let's make that wood, too. It's a bookshelf, after all. So, Chimney Chickens. If you feel like taking the time to comment, I'm curious how you're doing. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. I remember being really impressed with the game that you sent me years and years ago. What was that, like 8 years ago? And you've been real committed to your Chimney Chickens IP. I'm curious how things are developing for you. If you're feeling optimistic, or you care to share? 2011. Wow. Wow, I hit it on the head. That's 8 years ago. I just remember playing your game. I was sitting in my recliner in my condo, and we moved into a different house for 5 years after that. And so I was like doing the math. Yeah, it was a while ago. And the start of this song reminded me of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for a second there. But it ain't. I really love that game. They did a great job breaking their formula. I think they had to after Skyward Sword. Who works on the 3D stuff in the game? Well, I do, sir. Again, the project launched before I joined the team, but it was in a pretty rough state when I joined, and there's some more backstory to why I decided to do this, but I did some cyber stalking and found the creator of the game and reached out to him and asked him if he would like to work with me to overhaul the game's visuals. So if you go back to 2015 when the game was released and look at the way it looked, you can see the difference between the original voxel art that it had and compare it to now what I've put in there. And some of the limitations of the game will never go away no matter how good of an artist you have on board. For instance, our models are 32 voxels per cubic voxels per tile, and so there's physically no way for me to increase the amount of detail on the characters in the game. But for what is there, I can increase the quality of what's there. And some other technical things, for example, when the game first launched, the wall textures were 16 by 16 pixels. Now, even if you don't know anything about game art, I just described that the voxel resolution was 32 cubic voxels per tile. And so what it ended up looking like is that for some reason, the walls and floors and ceilings in the game all looked lower res than the character models. And it was this weird sort of dissonance, and the quality was all over the place. And so the first work I did on the game was to go and overhaul literally every piece of art in the game. I think if I tried really hard, I might be able to think of one or two things that I didn't change completely. But the vast majority of everything I completely redid. And that's how I joined the team. That's my origin story with Turning Wheel. And so if you like, the Minotaur is probably one of the biggest models in the game. I guess that model is probably the best example of like what I could do if I had to work with voxels at a really high resolution, because he's such a big character. In fact, if you'd like, I can link you a picture of what that Minotaur looks like, if that would be fun for you. I'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, I've got some, here, maybe this will work. I posted some stuff on my art page on the Steam store. Here, might as well give you the full link. And I won't I won't post what he used to look like, but the difference is pretty dramatic. Yeah, if you want to go back to my art page, you can see some of the other stuff I did there, but anyway. Enough about me. That's kind of a silly thing to say when streaming. Because unless you guys start picking up the slack in the conversation, I'm pretty much going to be talking about myself. Ah, thanks for... Okay, I got an answer from my pal Chimney Chickens. Thanks for asking. A ton has happened. Made chickens for about 6 years while working part-time. Got injured. Oh, my. I hope you're okay. Had to go back to school to retrain. It's the best thing. Graduated a year ago with a degree in digital media. Hired to assist an instructor in the classroom. Perfect. Chickens is sort of a B plan, but A plan is developing now. Looking to continue on. To go for. Looks like you got stopped mid-sentence there. Man, thank you for that brief update in this strange medium for that kind of thing. But hey, man, like, I don't. Regardless of context, it's great to catch up. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the injury. That's why I don't know why. I feel like I must have been in the loop to hear about that, but maybe it's just sort of slipped off my radar, and for that I apologize. I've got a number of talented artist friends, not necessarily digital media guys, but artists who have excelled really in instruction after they graduated, and I have a lot of respect for that, and they seem to get a lot of joy out of it, and that really matters. And I think part of the reason why I really love that they're doing that is that there were elements of my education that I was really disappointed with. Things like my teachers being really, not as qualified as they should have been to be teaching me. And I felt like me and my classmates did a much better job of teaching each other than the teacher did. And that's fine. Like, I think that's a fairly common culture in college, especially art colleges. But because our school was so expensive, just looking back on that, it's just unacceptable, you know? Like, if I'm going to pay $900 a class, or whatever it was I ended up paying, I forget. That might be what it is now. My classes might have been substantially cheaper back when I was going to school. Then you better teach me more than my friend who's also paying to be there, you know? And so I have a lot less patience for sort of incompetent teaching now. And so when I know a good friend who's like knows what he's talking about and is working, maybe doing side projects, maybe doing whatever else to keep his skill set relevant, I have a lot of respect for them raising the bar. I don't know if that same problem is prevalent in other types of education, but it certainly was in art, in my opinion. Well, and I was specifically in 3D art when I went to school, and you know, it's a fast-moving industry. Since you brought up the game I made, I'm experiencing a longing to return, make an updated version. All the stuff I learned about game design, picked up along the way from making web cartoons, excited to know what it can be. Cool, dude. Well, I think when I played it, my initial reaction was like, this has as much going for it as any free-to-play mobile game has. And so it would just take a few clever ideas to like figure out how to monetize it. I mean, you could go with ads, but you could also do a bunch of cosmetic unlocks or upgrade systems or whatever. Yeah, to make something legit. So it's cool, dude. I'm excited for you. Games isn't easy, you know. Especially these days, there's so much competition out there now that all the tools are so accessible to most people. Games is more competitive than ever. But you know, most people's first game projects don't look like yours, dude. So, I'd say if you feel confident, then go for it. Because I've seen your work. I think you could do it. All right, let's get your green pants on, shall we? Oh, it's a little too green. Oh yeah, baby, his green pants. So, fun fact: when I was figuring out what to dress the shopkeeper in when I was doing his 3D models, Whoa, this is a green pants kind of guy? Yeah, yes, Quando. Yes, sir, he is. His backstory's getting more and more interesting. Oh yeah, man. He's a drunk that wears green pants. And he's great at magic for some reason. So I got the idea for green pants from the Diablo 2 Paladin. If you ever played Diablo 2, well, if you never played Diablo 2, the Paladin character in that game started off, looking like he was wearing a leather jerkin and leather boots. But then also these like bright green tights. Oh yeah, you've got some experience with the paladin. Well, me and my dad would always make fun of the fact that he had these bright green pants on. Like, what order is he from where it's just very important that he wears green? Like, it's such a weird color to pick. But Barony's a pretty colorful game, and, you know, I could either give him, like, brown sackcloth pants, which is kind of boring, or I could give him something with some personality. So, I gave him some personality. Excuse me. A Kokiri, yeah. I'll get that hat on him in a minute here. I called my paladin Mr. Whiffit. Oh, did you invest in, what is it, Frenzy? Not Frenzy, that's the barbarian one. Zeal, I think. Yeah, he's got a bit of flair. He's stylish. Maybe his wife makes his clothes for him, and she likes green. Mistakes were made. Yeah, I definitely had Zeal. I think I leveled it up to 4. And that's when I realized that, like, 5 misses in a row was more than enough for me. Like, I didn't need to experiment with a build that would give me more misses. I swear something was happening in the background too, where it's just like if you were just like the wrong distance away, it wouldn't even calculate if you were supposed to hit. It would just miss, and it would keep missing because of that, you know, some click error or something that you made as a player, or that the pathing made as a, you know, maybe the computer pathed your guy over there wrong and then missed. But yeah, because sometimes it would just like miss all 5 of them or however many of them you had at the time, and it didn't, and it seemed really inconsistent. Yeah, I don't know. I'm talking about it on my butt, but, you know, I have to theorize as a game developer. It's like, there's got to be a reason. You know, we could suggest that the shopkeeper is a retired paladin. You know? You know what? Let's just keep that one to ourselves. I don't want Blizzard suing me. I'm sorry, Activision Blizzard suing me for stealing their wonderful ideas. Glad you like it. It's funny, man. When I watch other really great artists paint, they don't do it anything like I do. I'm so much more of a comic book type artist, and a lot of game industry artists these days are like, they're almost traditional painters in that they're very expressive and impressionistic, and they're able to sculpt shapes out of color and light as they paint. But I feel like I'm still drawing cartoons, you know. I figure out the pose and the outline, and then I fill it in, and that's how I like to work. And it restricts me to a certain style, but it's the style I like, so as long as nobody expects me to do something different, I'll be fine. Keep it on the DL. Bobby won't hear. Oh, well, good. That's a relief, dude. Yeah, I'm sure I'd be priority number 1 if he caught wind of this scheme. He's a green pants kind of guy. Probably is hurting after the string of misses. Needs my yeah. I'm sure he would definitely feel it if he caught a taste of our incredible profits. You know. It's funny. I said before, you know, that Barony is substantially profitable, and given that it's all made with volunteer effort, I can only double down on that statement. But at the same time, like, there's no way that I could quit my day job and work on it if I wanted to. And I like my day job, by the way. But, you know, should I choose to be more independent and work for myself full time, I could not afford to off of Barony's profits. So that kind of just tells you sort of the difference in what guys like Mr. Kotick, what they make versus what little guys make. It's like we have a team of 5 dudes, and there's, with a game that people like, it's got 89% positive reviews on Steam. It's one of a kind. Couldn't afford to feed and house the 5 of us if we wanted it to. It's just the reality. All right. Basic colors for the shopkeeper. Yeah. Yeah, building an audience has been tough. I mean, one of the things that I have to acknowledge too is that we're making a niche game, you know, like the big publishers are doing everything they can to find out how to make the game that everyone will like, so that they don't have to make any different games other than that, because games are expensive to make. And because their premise of the work they're doing is so limited, that leaves us with an opportunity to make whatever they're not making. But what we're basically fighting over, all of us indies then, is we're fighting over the scraps of the 10% that they leave behind. And we split them. And but as a result, we also don't have to compete with them. Their quality bar is way too high for what we can afford to make. And so it's this sort of weird economy. This little audience ecosystem. It's our job to find where we fit in. He's got a purple book. You know? Who doesn't want to have a purple book these days? It's 2019, guys. A man with green pants can have a purple book. Alright? Alright. I'm having fun. All right. Just gonna get a little shading on this edge here. Seems to need it. I'm just sort of implying some brick shapes as I paint in the darks of this stonework here. Alrighty. Pardon me if I sound like a broken record. Every time I'm like, I think to myself, oh, this idea is working. I end up talking to myself, oh, yes, right, yes, indeed. Quite. So let's make the shadow come this way for our shopkeeper's interior. Will imply that he has a torch inside his shop somewhere. Excuse me. Got the sniffles. Fine, time to keep working on this project. Take serious drive. Well, you are probably right about that. I don't know why. I've always been attracted to doing work in my hobby time. And that started with games when I was a kid. I'd come home from school and either do or not do the things I was supposed to first, and then I would make mods for games that I loved. And so it's just been part of my lifestyle for as long as I can. Well, not as long as I can remember, but since I was a kid, since I was 11 maybe. I was lucky to be in a household where my dad had a computer, and I made some good friends that were also into game stuff, and so it just became a habit. I work on projects, and I think in that way, even though I'm a game designer professionally, and I do art on the side, I think I relate a lot to artists in that they're just sort of driven to do the work. Like it's just sort of boiling up inside of them, and I'm just not happy unless I'm doing it. So I want to make something, and sometimes I remember like how when I was a kid, my parents would say things that sound like trite cliches now, but really made an impact on me. Saying things like, I can be anything I want to be, I can do anything I want to do, but it just takes hard work. But if you're willing to put in the time, you can accomplish whatever you want. And I experienced enough failure to know that the difference between success and failure most of the time is hard work. And if something requires a ton of work, then in order to stay motivated, I've got to love doing it. Otherwise there's no way I'm gonna work hard enough to succeed. If you don't love doing it. And my friend I mentioned earlier, who got into being an instructor, the way he put it, I thought was really smart. He says that if you do the thing that you love doing, you already have a competitive advantage over anyone else who doesn't. And I thought that was really smart advice that he gave his students. Because the competitive advantage is, the desire and willingness to work hard because you love doing it. Whereas, like, I remember I went to school with some guys who there are certain skills they really didn't want to do, but or didn't want to, work on. But, because they thought that's what the industry demanded of them, then they were like, okay, fine, I'll learn this thing that I hate. But like on one hand, biting the bullet and stepping up and doing what needs to be done, there's something to be said for that. On the other hand, you really shouldn't expect that to be your bread and butter, those things you bite the bullet on. So there are things in game art development that I don't particularly like doing, but are part of the process, and it's important that I know them. And I get good enough about them that I don't need to be babysat. and I don't complain. And those, you know, that's fine. But if I just despised the whole premise of my job because I thought that that's how I'd get a good job, like, I don't think I'd be a very good employee. You know? Just a bummer. Alright, let's just say that he stained this with some sort of cheap wood stain. So in the game, every shopkeeper has a picture of a bag on the wall outside of their store. That's our international symbol for shop. Let's get him some red stain for the wrap around the bag. All right. Yeah, good observation, Quandao. Purple book, green pants, a brown bag. What kind of, you know, you do you, but at least be consistent, right? Okay, so we've got a big old cape on this warrior. Unfortunately, and or obviously, his leather armor is going to be brown. So let's get that out of the way. But I'll be thinking about a color that he can sport. I'm glad you noticed his expression. Yeah, he's sort of like, I was expecting to fight monsters, but not like this. Yeah, I don't get paid enough. For sure. Today's a good day to die. Barony is the type of game where you die a lot. So, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, he should have expected it. It is 11:15 my time. Still got some time left in me. I'm happy to keep painting. I wasn't sure how far I expected to do it tonight. Yeah, he's still slack with his sword. He's like, should I even bother swinging this? I've been slouching. I've noticed that my head has dipped out of camera. I moved my camera from my last stream just to make sure I would stop disappearing so much, and here I am doing it again. Leaning into my... I only noticed because my back started hurting. Sit up straight. Let's see if I can sneak some of this red. What was my first mod? Well, what a fun question. I think officially my first mod would be... I did an art overhaul for Wolfenstein 3D that I called, cleverly, Dragonstein 3D. And I replaced all the Nazi art with dragons. And I gave BJ Blazkowicz some like magical power rings that shot lightning at the center of the screen rather than bullets, rather than guns. And so when you'd go and collect a new gun, then it would look like a new ring. And yeah, dude, fantasy nerd for life, I guess. So yeah, I didn't actually change any gameplay with that mod. I modified a couple of levels just to see what I could do with it. But I didn't do much in gameplay. Then after that, I did a ton of work with a friend of mine from 5th and 6th grade, and we made a whole new game in QBasic that was inspired by a couple other games. And so I did a lot of like low res art for basically like an ASCII tile set, and so I spent a lot of time working on that, and I did. And during that time, I was learning a lot about animating with VGA. So if you're not familiar, that would be 256 colors at 240 by 320 resolution. And so I did a lot of animated pixel art during that time. But then after that, I spent... Your first mod was for Wolfenstein as well? That's cool, dude. You know, I haven't met that many people who have like really cut their teeth on that old school first-person shooter stuff. So anyway, I ended up spending a lot of, I guess, the summer after 8th grade on my own, and so my next giant project was to do a total conversion of Doom 2. And so I put together new levels and new art and new monster behavior using Deke Hackhead. I think I only ended up making about 3 levels or so, and I think that mod has since been lost to the sands of time. But that, I would say that my work on Doom 2 was probably the first taste of, like, I don't know, what you could call actual game development. Just due to the intensity, the hours I put in, and you know, the seriousness of the vision, the scope that I had, and so yeah. I mean, after that, I went on to make some StarCraft maps with the use map settings mode to do some custom scripting, and then I did some stuff in Morrowind to fix balance issues. Sorry, I haven't been active in chat. Just finished one of my first sculptures in ZBrush. Well, that's cool, dude. New to the whole sculpting and artist thing. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you like it, ZBrush is an incredibly powerful tool. I've done some 3D sculpting, you know, professionally and for fun, but the sculpting I've been doing lately has all been in Oculus Medium. Because it's so intuitive and easy to understand, you know, how to get the result you want in VR, as opposed to, you know, ZBrush's interface. Although, like, of course, it doesn't hold a candle to the power of ZBrush. ZBrush is a much more powerful tool. But it leaves me sort of enjoying the artistic freedom of expression in Medium. That's when I'm doing my sculpting these days. Was it the talking about StarCraft that brought you back, Quandao? Use map settings. I'm guessing a phrase that hasn't been used in a few decades. Oh, Doom editing, yeah, dude. So, you know, I went through Tips of the Doom Gurus, which is a good book that taught me how to build Doom levels and turn Doom 2 map into a dodgeball arena. That's pretty crazy. But anyway, without a book like that, it would have been very difficult for me to learn, I think, how to do that editing, because those tools are so specific to that one game. You know, it's hard to just pick it up through osmosis and just guessing how it should work. Somebody used Smash Bros as their part of their intro to their song. I am still alive. Are you alive, my friend? How you been, dude? Yeah, I'm hanging out here painting. I'm getting pretty close to done with the first color pass. And I think once this pass is done, I might first shrink it down, you know, save a new copy, and then shrink it down to the size to where I want to edit pixels, and then edit lighting in that format. Because as you may have noticed in our key art, all of our promo art, I've been doing pixel art for that. And I find it's easier for me to start with a traditional composition and then break it down to pixel art later. Just because fighting with the pixels, I don't know, really restrains my mindset and to what the possibilities are. And the Blessed Edition art you see is was done with this method compared to, say, the Cursed Edition art. I tried to go straight to pixel graphics straight away, and I just the results aren't, they're not even close. So, you know, I also didn't spend nearly as much time on it, so I can't give myself too hard of a time. But all right, let's get some brighter gray on this head. Yo, Bleach Garage, if you're still here, we just got done talking about Doom and Wolfenstein modding. It's kind of funny that you showed up right in time for that. Bleach Garage was instrumental in getting me connected with some of those tools so that I could do that stuff. When we were youngins. Let's make his hilt out of a darker iron. He's not fancy enough to have bronze. You know, he's sort of a common adventurer. Ooh. Just gonna take a second to stretch out a little. It's a lot of painting. I've been pleased with this music selection. I was worried I wouldn't be able to find a station that served up Twitch-friendly music that I would actually like. Partially because I'm kind of a bit of a picky jerkwad about my music. Not that I don't like a lot of different types of music, but when I'm working, I really don't want to listen to lyrics. And especially when I got nice people to talk to, like you folks. There's music. Oh, do I need to turn it up? Can you hear it now? Sorry about that. One of my viewers mentioned earlier that they could hear it. Yeah, I think I just had it on too quiet. I muted it so I could let you guys listen to the trailer audio I put together, and I didn't turn it up loud enough so that you could hear it again. So that is my bad. If you want it louder, just let me know. I think I can do that. So even though you can't actually get, you know, canvas pants in the game, I don't want this guy to be covered in more brown. I'm sick of brown. Something to contrast that sort of like bright red stained leather and help it seem less brown. Just don't let it happen again. Sir, yes, sir. My bad. So, my previous streams have been done under the Barony gaming category, but tonight I switched it to the art category. And I think as a result, I'm finding a different audience, which is nice. We should go green pants again. Yeah, man. In a world with infinite dungeons and drunken shopkeepers, there is only one color of pants for real men. Green pants. Green pants! Alright. Well, I was gonna say it's time to determine this guy's cape color, but we can do his skin color first. Peasant in short pants. Watch out with your burlap clothes. You're easily burninated. Okay. Of the colors of capes that this character could have, based on how it looks, it could be blue and purple, which would sort of steal the show in terms of color. Could be green. Maybe it could be black. Maybe. It could be purple, for sure. But you know what? Let's just bring that green home, dude. We don't need to use a million colors in our painting. We use green. So no green pants, but he can have a green cape. It suits him. I just had to think real quick about what colors these things actually are in the game. It's funny, nobody's really ever complained about our selection of cosmetic materials. You know, there's all sorts of items that can look different but do the same thing, because a lot of the loot properties are randomly selected. And it's not like a looting game like Borderlands or Diablo. It's just that, like, when you pick up a cape, you don't know what it does at first. That's a big part of the game, is that everything is kind of a mystery. And so everything's kind of dangerous. And so anyway, you know, when you pick up a cloak, you don't know if it's going to give you protection, or if it's going to be a cursed cloak, or if it maybe will make you levitate, and it could do any of those things. And so by having them randomly be other colors, you know, the player can't just see it and be like, oh, I already know what that one does. But anyway, that's also where, you know, the cosmetic variety of how your character looks comes from to some degree. And I can't recall a single time people have been like, yeah, it's cool, but there aren't enough cape colors. But we keep adding cape colors anyway because, well, that's just the kind of people we are. In our next update, we're adding a new gray cape. The succubus is wearing it. Let's get rid of this line, it's not doing anything for us. Okay. So lastly, we have this kind of a monk character over here. Actually, first we need to give this, we need to finish this guy's skin out a little better. We've used the red head before in our images, but we haven't used the guy that's just mustache and brown hair, so let's say that's what you are. Well, we'll sneak in a goatee. Nobody will know. It's just our little secret. Okay. Oh, he needs an eyeball. He's very picky. He's always demanding things from me, like, why don't I have an eyeball? And where's my eye? All sorts of stuff. Alright. Now we've got a character over here. Let's give her a bit of a different skin tone. Of course, it's right up against the brown earth, which means the contrast is very low. Dilemma. I intended to give her dark skin. Maybe I'll just give her very dark skin, and that will look better. Well, I guess I'm avoiding the problem and I'm going over here to paint this torch now. I got distracted, forgive me, I'll be right back. Little sconce for the torch. Just like the ones we have in game. I'm just stealing the yellow from the conjurer's staff. I'm gonna have to... Yeah, that's why I'm saving the lighting until later, is because it's gonna influence everything. I'm gonna want to paint over top of it. Not the sort of underlining painting I'm doing right now. Okay. I'm sure I'll be able to use the lighting here to make her dark skin look correct. Right now it falls behind the dirt because they're both brown. And so the darker one, like when I'm flat shading like this, we assume that if it's darker, it means it's more occluded or something. But I'll be able to use like these lights around here to highlight her face so that we can get a better impression of what's going on. Okay, let's give her a gray shirt so that we don't have to use brown again. And there is a gray shirt in the game. Accidentally clicked the burn tool hotkey. Whoopsie daisy. We give her what looks kind of like a tabard, ultimately. Sort of wondering if we should give her a purple hood or if we should leave it black. Well, let me know if you have an opinion. Keep painting. Alright, well, we got no votes on the color for her hood, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the Shopkeeper's Book's purple and see how that works. So in the game, when you wear this hood, it generally means that you got it dropped from a member of the Zap Brigade. There's a team of arcanists who carry lightning staffs to slay the Minotaur. Or it means you started yourself as an arcanist. So maybe she started as an arcanist and then found herself some brass knuckles, which is totally possible. in the game, the brass knuckles is a glove item. And I colored those gloves to be like black leather so that the bronze or the brass sorry, it's just funny they call it bronze when they're clearly made out of brass, would show up well against that dark leather color. So we're gonna go ahead and give her that black and gold combo. That looks so striking. Alright. So the smoke is a bit in the way, but other than that, let's just get a layer up here so we can address that real quick. Alright. Get pretty close to having all the color blocked in. I'd like to put a little shadowing on the floor. Nothing too fancy, just some blob shadows underneath to help give a little depth. Sort of an ambient shadowing, I guess you could call it. So let's get this stuff going behind here. Got to color in this portcullis still. Because this area is so back behind this door here. I think I can afford to make it real dark. I don't have to worry about a lot of detail back there. But I will need to highlight the edges of the bars so that you can distinguish them from that dark black background. Maybe worth filling it all in after a certain point, maybe. That looks a lot better. Serious depth. Let's add some shading to these columns. It'd be pretty complicated. They would have some shading on them. Alright, already a lot more depth just because of that little bit of shadowing I did. Alright, so what this painting definitely needs now is some lighting. This is, you know, I've got shading to add volume to things, but that's not really the same thing as the lighting that I'm going to be doing. So, it is almost midnight. I think I can probably put in another hour or so. So I will. Let's take a look at where those logos end up, depending on which format we use. For those of you who haven't been here all night, I have... oh, that's funny. These things aren't in the right spot anymore. Here, I'll move them up. I have these guides to help me identify where the cover art is going to be depending on what location the game is lives on. So inside this blue area is the sort of a widescreen store page, and this green one is sort of the vertical box art you might see in other locations. So you can kind of get an idea of what the framing of the image would be, and if the balance of the image seems a little weird because like at the bottom left it's pretty empty, that's because it actually won't ever be featured anywhere. There's literally never a time when the spots that are not colored will be showed probably on a store. And so, I mean, I'll probably finish out the whole drawing just for my own satisfaction and to have a nice complete square piece of art, or rectangular piece of art that includes everything I've done. But that is the reason why there isn't much going on in those places. Like I could easily have drawn a monster, like maybe a rat scrambling through or something on the bottom left. Maybe I will eventually, but for now, because I'm trying to get this done, you know, kind of as quickly as I can, I'm gonna keep it pretty basic. So that said, I'm gonna leave this screen up so that you guys can enjoy it and the music while I take a bathroom break, and I will be right back. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Hey, what's up? Invictus Blood? Maxinaba? Welcome to the stream, guys. I'm glad you're liking the art so far. It is not done. It is in severe need of lighting. And so I have to make a decision as to if I'm going to light it after I shrink it down to pixel art size or before. And I think the smartest way I can make that decision is by going ahead and just doing a shrink down and seeing what that looks like. So let's turn off. Let's just do a straight up merge visible. You would have been in earlier. I always get Twitter notifications late for some reason. Well, I'm not, for what it's worth, I'm not often on Twitter, so you didn't hurt my feelings. Luckily for you, if you're excited, to watch, I'm good to put a little bit more time in. It's weird. This isn't merging like I thought it would. I'm glad you're hyped for the DLC, dude. I'm excited for it. I like playing it. It just needs a little bit more before we're done. What is happening with my layers? Sorry, give me a second here. Boom, rasterized. Okay, so the way that I tend to start a piece of pixel art is I'll paint it like this, like I've done. This might look fairly elaborate, but, and maybe it's about what you'd expect out of a comic book page, right? Depending on the quality of the comic. And, but really the art's not intended to be consumed like this. Although I will be using the hero characters in their own shots with the same style later. But anyway, so I'm gonna resize the document. Where are we at? All right, so right now it's 2500 pixels. What if we make it like 500? Which is like not many at all. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what to think about that. It's actually not that bad. Let's try even smaller. Let's do 350. Even this is feeling a little higher res than I would expect it to feel. So, and really, like, all I'm doing here is completely arbitrary. I'm just picking what I think looks closest to like the chunky pixel sizes I expect of pixel art from the style that our game has. So let's go down to 300. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So this is kind of getting to the size where I'm like, yes, this is pixel art, you know? So, and if you go down to its actual size, that's where we live. So before I commit to this and start painting it up, I'm going to try a different blend mode. We do 200 or 250, I don't remember. Okay. All right. Let's see how this goes, shall we? I'm not completely confident right now, but what I am confident about is that, you know, we're looking at pixels right now. And if I expect the art to look like pixel art, then it better be at a resolution that, you know, you would expect some pixel art. So, and that skeleton still looked awesome, if I do say so myself. Let's start by enhancing some of the outlines that are now completely gone. I'm gonna get rid of my attempting pixel art in the past. That part always confusing, choosing the pixels to work with. Yeah, dude, it's, I mean, it's completely subjective, right? So I'm just gonna literally outline these characters because it can look so muddy. Because when you downsize the way I did, it just like blends all the pixels together. And I like how it looks outlined. And I can pick on some, I can pick up some of the subtlety that I made in the full-size art and really imply that what I drew there is going down on at this size. I don't know. It's funny though, like, working with fewer pixels really directly translates into less work. Like, it takes a lot less time to get things right, in my opinion. Just because there's the amount of things that you could do is so different. You have far fewer choices to make. So this is a case where I'm going to overrule what's in the art right now so I can enhance her demon eyes. That's a little much. You know, I'm starting to have doubts. The piece I made is very complicated. There's a lot going on. And it may not hold up as pixel art. Keep going. All right, I won't give up yet. I like how perfectly this Goatman's tail turned into a single string of pixels. There's a few places where I'm leaving deliberately a break in the outlining where I don't think it's where I think it fading off helps define the shape better and kind of implies that blend technique that the pixel artists will use by picking the colors that are in between the two colors of the thing that they're painting. One of the things that painting, that working in Wolfenstein and Doom has done for me is that I really do understand what good pixel art is and how it's made because I was working directly off of id's work. And I learned to replicate what they did in my own original art back when I was a kid. And so like even though I'm cheating a bit here, there's like a lot that's similar in this like automatically down-resed work to what those guys would manually do back in the day, what I would manually do back in the day. How often do I stream art in general? You know what? The first time I've streamed art at all has been for this DLC. So I don't actually spend a lot of time making this quality, this like level of quality of art. This is this key art for the Barony DLC is a bit of a rare exception for me. I tend to make things at video game quality, not at like marketing quality, which is a totally different like sphere of art as far as I'm concerned. But I've enjoyed this stream so much that I'm tempted to make excuses to do more art like this, whether it be for the next DLC or a next project, or even if I decide to just, you know, do it for the lulz. But like I've been watching I don't know if you've seen Drawfee, which is a cartooning stream. It's comedy and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy watching it. And they just draw random stuff that people suggest, and like I feel like I would really enjoy doing that on a stream, just drawing what people suggest and see how it comes out. And if you're allowed to and are willing, you would definitely watch, whether it's Barony or other games. Well, thank you. What's up, Xanatos? You came for the mead! Oh, you're raiding me! Oh, snaps! Well, thank you. This is my first ever raid, and I am shocked and horrified. I'll get over it, but it'll have to be after I finish doing art. Yeah, so I just finished outlining the player characters from this as I experiment with turning my piece into pixel art. Oh, nice! Well, thanks for stopping by, Xanatos. Yeah, I've enjoyed your Barony streams. Here, why don't I'd like to give you a taste of what this looked like before I down-resed it, because I'm not committed to doing the pixel art yet. Here we are. So, there it is. Before it's been pixelated, this is sort of more of a classic comic book style, but the lighting isn't done yet, and so I was trying to decide if I wanted to do the lighting in pixel art or do the lighting in standard illustration. And you know, the pixel art looks like pixel art, but I don't know, I might be losing too much. Anyway, I've got some decisions to make, but we're having fun. I'll be streaming for a little while yet. So if you want to stick around, be my guest. Welcome, Raiders. Yeah, I reached out to, if you guys watched Thanatos, I reached out the other day because I saw that you guys were streaming Barony, and I just wanted to say hi. And you know, we're working our butts off on the DLC, but I appreciate you guys streaming it. I hope you're having fun with it. I think maybe I'm gonna go ultra high contrast here and see if that can amp up sort of the pop of the pixel art. Cannot wait. Game is super fun and the DLC looks amazing. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I really want to stick around, but I've been hella sick. Oh man, I hope you feel better. We've got a team member that's sick too. Rest up, buddy. Take it easy. Tenchi Strife. You know what? I was so worried that people would not be excited about this DLC, you know? But the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and I'm really excited about that, especially considering how much work it's been. Gaming awesome. Thanks, man. You too, pal. All right. All right. All right. So what we're doing right now is we're just testing out to see if this pixel art style is gonna stick with this, because I'm starting to feel like maybe it'd be smarter for me to just go ahead and finish the painting as a high-res painting rather than a pixel art painting. I'm trying to think objectively, like if I was a player and I saw one of these pieces of art in a store, which would be more exciting for me? But not just what's more exciting, but what would make me interested in a game like that, you know? Because we all know what Barony is. It's not a high-res game. So, you know, if you saw a high-res piece of concept art, would you be like, oh, this is a voxel game, I'm not interested? Versus seeing a piece of pixel art and being like, oh, I like retro style graphics. Maybe I'll check this game out. All of our art before has been retro style art, so I don't really have an A/B test case. We got our warrior with his sword out here. Did I forget to color his hand? I may have. You can't really tell in the pixel art though. And what they don't know can't hurt them. Am I right, guys? We got our angry shopkeeper. He suffers no fools. That's sort of his MO. I don't know if I want to mess with him too much more. He looks great. Okay. Alright, well I think I've done the outlining that I think I'd like to do for this, and so the next step would be to maybe try some lighting. So I'm gonna try that first with let's say burn and dodge. Hold on a sec here. Get my correct tools sorted out. Doesn't seem to be making a difference. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. Overlay. I thought I wanted burn and dodge, but I wanted overlay. Let's get a lower opacity on this brush so I can add some nuance to my work, yeah. And, you know, these guys are foreground characters. They're supposed to sort of fall out of focus. They're not supposed to be as interesting as the others. We'll blend that all in, don't worry. I know you were terrified, but don't be. And we can shine up his sword and give him a highlight on his front. So those of you who've been sticking with me for a while, I've been talking about that I'm gonna paint over with lighting rather than paint under, as I was doing painting with the colors before. So hopefully this makes it more clear what that means. You get a lot of shape really quick this way, and then I can go in and smooth it out so it doesn't look stupid, which is one of our primary concerns. We don't want it to look stupid. Succubus is looking sexy. That's our whole deal. Soldier's your favorite. Well, good. Too bad he's not the hero of this DLC. This squad of monsters is gonna take him to school, I believe. I do reckon. But I'm glad you like him. He turned out, honestly, better than I thought he would. You know, I didn't mean to, but this woman down here looks like she's wearing a hijab. It's kind of funny. I feel like maybe somebody else might have meant to make that happen. Oh well, it's a purple hood. I ain't mad. Ooh, we got an upset goat. He's throwing his upset potion. Why don't we... I need to outline this potion a little bit, so we have the proper quantity of attention drawn to it. If I can get the angle of the pixels correct. I guess that's something. Let's sample this and just add some shiny here. Well, it didn't work. There we go. Okay. Back to business. Okay. Now we can darken up the shopkeeper's shop, sort of in a fell swoop sort of fashion. His bag sign is looking very rough, which is fine. Yeah, he doesn't spend his whole day like making his bag sign as pretty as he can. Let's get some highlights on those rocks. All right, Pardon the sniffling, guys. 'Tis the season. We gotta darken her up. She's in the foreground. She needs to fall out. All right. Our man in the green pants. He's a champ. Okay, so now that we got sort of like a base run of this volumetric shadowing, I guess we'll pretend that that's its name. I'm gonna see if I can find the smudge tool in Affinity Photo. There we are. And I'm gonna give some of this stuff a bit of a shimmy shake. I don't want hard edges on my lighting here. We'll just smudge that in. And because we're only working with the lighting layer that I've been building lights and darks upon, I can sort of sloppily bleed over the edges of different colors, and the results are very forgiving. And I haven't even done the colored lighting yet, so I may end up actually darkening this whole thing or increasing its contrast, and then doing a lot more focus on the lit colors from the orange potion and the green potion and the yellow staff and the yellow torch. Oh, that's from that that volumetric lighting I did before. Not volumetric, but volume enhancing color shading I did before. That's going to require a little finesse. Let's smooth this out. Okay. What happens if I do this? Duplicate. So you can see that gets pretty extreme pretty fast. It's not the worst thing in the world. Let's do like just a general blur on this and see if we can get it to spread out its doom and gloom a little bit. And we'll duplicate that. So yeah, it's adding a lot of contrast, which I'm liking actually. So let's try a few more things. Let's get that colored lighting in. So we're gonna keep on, let's see if we can stay on overlay, but I'm gonna go back to using my pixel tool. In Photoshop, the pixels tool is called the pencil tool, which is funny because nobody really uses it for anything except pixel art, as far as I know. Alright, so in theory, we can edge the... Let's lower our opacity a bit. We can... Because the succubus is real close... So maybe I should do screen. No, that's a bit aggressive, isn't it? What if I lower the opacity? No, let's do overlay. It was going alright. So anyway, I can touch the edges of the succubus. See, one of the things we're losing with the succubus is she's got this, like, come here big boy sort of gesture going on. Because her signature class is the Mesmer, and so she has the ability to charm enemies to fight for her. So that's like playing off her nature as a succubus. And but with such low pixel resolution, we're losing a lot of that. Well, anyway. So the skeleton's gonna need some of this green. You can see his hands are pretty much completely gone. Thanks to the pixelization. Just getting some of that highlighting all over our skeleton buddies. In theory, this is the guy that's glowing, and the smoke is accentuating it. Alright, and then I don't know that the goat man would have any of that on him. We'll get some on the vampire just because she's gonna look cool and she's close enough for it to make sense. Okay, and then we'll go to the opposite side of the spectrum, quite literally. Start highlighting with orange. And Goatman himself is highlighted with it. Our shopkeeper can be highlighted with it. Alright, let's switch off of the pixel tool now. I would like to do some more general highlighting, like glowy stuff. So we'll get that going in around here. As the torchlight has its flavor. Okay. Well, in theory, we have ourselves, you know, a painting. I think it's a little hard to tell what's going on with the goat man, just because of his second potion is it's glowing so much, and his hands are so small wrapped around it. Let's see if I can emphasize that a little more. Let's get a little bit of dungeon color on that. I called it dungeon color, but what I really meant was, you know, torchlight. Where I come from, we call it dungeon color. He lied. Okay. So, I mean, in theory, we can tell what all these characters are. I'd say they look like pixel art. I still have some concerns that I'm just asking too much of this pixel resolution. Let's throw this in here. Of course, this is very small now. Actually, what I should do is duplicate all this and then put it in a folder and then rasterize it and then bring it over to this image and then make it the size that it needs to be in order to do its job. I mean, as you can see, it's tiny. It's just minuscule.
It's some new technique. Must be, but when did you learn to do that?
So, in theory, this portion would be this part of the box art, and this portion would be this part of the box art. I'm gonna change how I'm doing this so that's actually useful. Okay. So that would be box art A. And this would be box art B.
It's some new technique. Must be, but when did you learn to do that?
So there are, you know, these are both, I would say they're valid. I think this logo needs to be bigger. Let's go ahead and make that happen. So we completely lose our foreground heroes, as I sort of suspected we might. We can drop a big drop shadow under this thing to draw more deliberate focus. Okay. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I'm not disappointed with how this came out. I find myself wondering if it could be better. If I just finished the HD version of the box art. It's such a more complicated piece than our previous key arts that I just think that there's a lot going on, and I'm a little concerned it's too much. Like, if this flew by in your Steam store page, would you even notice it? Because it's such a mess of colors and shapes. It's really noisy. It's really hard to interpret. So, because of that, I'm feeling real hesitant that this is the right solution for us. That said, I'm proud of how it came out, and you know, it's got potential. So, I guess we'll see where it goes. But given the kind of stopping point we're at right now, I think it'd be wise for me to end the stream now, here tonight. I can't thank you guys enough for sticking around. You always want more or better perfection. Yeah, you're probably right about that, Invictus. Thank you for saying so. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I feel it. Thank you, Kwandao. I have an intense sense of responsibility for making sure that this sells as best as it can, and that my art will hopefully help it do that. So if I feel like it's not good enough, it's gonna bother me. So, but anyway, yes, I hope you have a good night too. Thanks again for sticking with me. To the Raiders coming from Xanatos, thanks for stopping by. I hope you come hang out with me again. I don't always just do art streams. I'll also do Barony playtest streams, and who knows in the future what else I might do. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, and thanks for your interest in Barony. And I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Cheers. Cool. Thanks, Invictus. Howdy.